इसको म्यूट करना। म्यूट। Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Sumit Talwar. I am the chairman of Bariatric and Metabolic Surgery of Manipal Hospitals, Bangalore. And I'm also the head of the Department of General and Minimal Access Surgery. Today, I'm here with you to speak about obesity. Obesity, what is obesity? What does it mean for the general public? And how to tackle it. Let me start with a small presentation. I can't share my screen. Please excuse me for a minute. I'm just trying to set up my screen sharing. Once the screen sharing is up, we'll continue with the presentation. This will stop, yes.
No, this way.
Video. Good afternoon, everybody. Greetings from Manipal Hospital. Greetings from Dr. Sumit Talwar. I'm the chairman of Metabolic Bariatric Surgery here at Manipal Hospital, Bangalore. I'm here to talk to you about obesity. So I call obesity as the mother of all diseases. We'll shortly see why this is so. And we'll also see how to treat obesity. So the word obesity has been derived from the Latin word obesus, which means to devour. A very simple definition of obesity is to have high amount of body fat in relation to lean body mass. A person is called obese if he satisfies this condition. Sounds very simple, but it's not easy to determine the amount of body fat in relation to lean mass. Why do we want to study obesity? Because it is a huge problem in terms of numbers. Let us talk about the numbers first. It is currently the biggest epidemic that is facing humanity, and it is going to be with us for the next 50 to 100 years, I think, although this is just an estimate or a guesstimate. In the US, the obesity is actually reached in humongous proportions. 2/3 of the US population is overweight, and approximately 1/3 is obese, and some 15% would be such that they are morbidly obese, that they require urgent treatment in according to so as to save their lives. In India, according to a study by ICMR, 12% of urban male population and 15% of female population is overweight, and 5% of the country's population is morbidly obese. It has been classified as a disease by WHO in 2004. A lot of us still believe that obesity is not a disease, it is the fault of the person who is obese. But let me tell you that it is classified as a disease, just like gallbladder stones, just like kidney stones, just like high blood pressure, sugar, and it should be treated as a disease. Coming to the diagnosis of obesity, as to how we determine whether a person is obese or overweight or he has normal weight. So we do not use tables or body types. We use a simple calculation which is called body mass index or BMI or Quetelet's index. It basically relates a person's height to its weight. So this was derived, the normal values are derived from insurance data, and they have been largely validated over the past 100-150 years that the BMI is a fairly accurate method of estimating obesity. So BMI is calculated as weight in kilograms over height in meters squared. You can do it on a calculator. You can read it from a chart, but there are apps on all mobile platforms, iOS, Windows, and Android.
మాట్లాడచ్చా నేను మాట్లాడచ్చు కదా
This is an example of a chart that we use for calculating the BMI. We used to use, nowadays nobody uses this. We all use mobile apps. So a BMI of 18.5 to 22.4 kilograms per meter squared is considered as normal.
Okay.
Below 18.5 is considered as underweight. 22.5 to 27.5 is overweight. 27.5 to 32.5 is obese class 1. 32.5 to 37.5 is considered obese. And more than 37.5 is considered class 3. More than 50 BMI is called super obese. They are the ones who need urgent treatment. So out of all these classes, we are mainly concerned about these classes, which is severe obese, morbid obesity, and super obesity, because these are the people who actually are going to get harmed from the obesity that they have. What are the causes of obesity, one may ask? Like I told you, it is not the fault of the person who is overweight. Then you ask as to why does a person become obese? You must have seen there are people in the same family, in the same house. Some of them are obese, some of them are not. So there are multiple factors which come into play. The most important factors are as follows. Most people inherit fat genes from our parents or relatives. That means they are genetically predisposed to being overweight. Then people who are genetically predisposed to being overweight, if they have triggers in their lifetime, then they start putting on weight. Once they put on weight, then it becomes a self-sustaining sort of disease. So consumption of foods high in calories, excessive carbohydrates, sugar, and fats. Consumption of too much food, large portions. This is a subset in which we call it eating disorder. Not enough exercise, sedentary lifestyles. There are many other triggers which can cause obesity, like stress, lack of sleep. There are certain drugs like steroids, some beta blockers, some antihypertensives, some psychiatric medicine which can cause weight gain. In modern science, in modern medicine, there is a theory called the set point theory, which we believe, which controls how a person's weight is managed. In this theory, we believe that each person's weight is controlled by his hormones very closely, within a range of 2, 3, 4 kilos. What it means is that there is a set point, like a thermostat, of the weight that the body thinks is right to maintain. So when we try to reduce weight by dieting and exercise, the set point, the body reacts by increasing the secretion of hormones which cause weight gain. It increases appetite. It makes the person more lazy, more lethargic. There is weight regain, and this cycle continues. Obesity leads to many problems. That is the reason why we are studying obesity here, why we are talking about obesity. If it was just a harmless physical problem, there would be no need to treat it, or there would be very little need to treat it. But it is not only physical. It doesn't only make you look bad, but it also leads to many other diseases. And it has been proven beyond doubt that all these diseases that I'm going to enumerate are actually caused by obesity. Once we do the treatment for obesity, then these diseases also become better or they abate. Type 2 diabetes is the commonest consequence of obesity. High cholesterol, high BP, obstructive sleep apnea, snoring, and which means snoring and stoppage of breathing during sleep, heart disease, stroke, asthma, back and knee problems, depression, cancers, many cancers, and most importantly, there is a huge psychological impact on the person who is suffering from this disease. They have problems of coping up in their friend circle, in their family, at the workplace, and it has been also shown that people who are obese, they perform poorly at work. Now the question comes, why do we need to treat obesity? If a person is happy with the way he looks, then why do we need to treat it? We need to treat it because this disease is not a lifestyle disorder. A person cannot control his weight like you would think that we can control. So let me ask you a question. How many of you who know of an obese person, and how many of you know who has been able to lose a lot of weight and maintain it for a long time? I'm sure you will be able to count such persons on your fingers. You will remember them immediately. That's because the number is very, very, very small. So most people will not be able to lose weight, to shed weight by just diet and exercise, or without taking any help, medical help from doctors. So this is then one example of one person. How many of you think that he can lose weight by diet and exercise? Another same example, similar. There are so many examples that I can give you, but you can't expect that all of these are lazy, unmotivated, or wrong. Well, actually, they are not. They are suffering from a disease which is controlled by hormones. So therefore, the next question comes, how to lose this weight and how to keep it off. There are two major options of weight loss in modern medicine. One is medical, in which we use medicines, diet, exercise, and behavior modification, and the other is surgical. Let's talk about each one of them one by one. So the most important pillars of medical treatment are diet, exercise, behavior modification, and drugs. What you have to understand is that the efficacy is limited. We know that most people will lose only 10 to 15% of their body weight at best. The second problem is that weight regain is a very big problem in the long term. Almost everybody will gain all of the weight that they have lost in 5 to 10 years. But still, it is a good option for mild obesity. In diet, there are lots of options and there are lots of controversies. But what has been seen is that most diets have similar effects. Only thing to remember here is that any diet which restricts the total number of calories and the total amount of food you are eating is not likely to work for a very long time, because you are likely to remain hungry. Therefore, any diet which needs to be applied for reduction of weight has to be such that can be continued for a long period of time. So any diet which reduces the amount of food you eat is not going to be successful. So the traditional method is the total calorie restriction I spoke about. This is probably the least successful method. It works in some people in the beginning, but very soon the effect peters off and the weight loss stops and the weight gain starts. Then there is the other method, which is called the high protein, high fat diet, of which there are various modifications like keto, paleo, Atkins diet. Then there's another modification which is called low fat diet. Then there is another new fad which is picking up nowadays, which is called intermittent fasting. So you fast for a variable period of time from 16 to 18 hours in a day and eat only in the rest of the time. All of these diets have been shown to be almost equally effective. So the current concept that we believe now is that carbohydrates are to blame. If we reduce carbohydrates in our diet, increase protein and fat, this should help most of the people. The second step of weight reduction is exercise. So the rule of thumb for exercise is that you should exercise for about 45 minutes per day for at least 4 to 5 times a week. There are multiple types of exercises, but they can be divided into basically two types: aerobic or endurance or weight training, and muscle building. So both of these exercises are necessary. The rule of thumb for the intensity of exercise is that you should not be able to speak comfortably and you should be breathless during the time of exercise. If you are doing that intensity of exercise, that means you are doing the correct amount of exercise. Don't expect to be able to do strenuous exercise on the first day or in the first week. You will have to gradually build up the stamina over a period of weeks to months, but don't lose heart. The third step is behavior modification. Behavior modification means it can be also called as mindful eating. Eat 3 sensible meals per day, avoid snacking, take fixed portions of food, don't eat until you feel full, because that is a wrong concept. Take fixed portions of meals for every day. Do not snack in between. If you need to snack, it should be a high fiber, high protein snack. The fourth step is drugs or prescription medicines. There are various varieties of drugs, of which 5 or 6 have been now approved by FDA in the US. But currently in India, only 2 varieties are available. The one variety that is available in India is Orlistat, which inhibits fat absorption in the intestine, and the other option which is available is liraglutide, which is an injectable used for diabetes, but also effective in obese people, non-diabetic patients, which helps in losing weight. The rest of the drugs, lorcaserin, phentermine, topiramate, naltrexone, bupropion, are not available in India as of now. I will not go into detail about the drugs. So what I want to tell you is that when you use a combination of all of these 4 methods for medical weight loss, the efficacy is still limited. There have been number of studies, and it has been proven beyond doubt that to expect a weight loss of more than 10% in the majority of the patients would be unreasonable, and it will be uncommon. Therefore, if somebody is getting a 10% weight loss over a period of 1 year from the start of the treatment, we consider that the medical treatment is very, very effective and it has been successful. Coming to the second type of treatment, which is the surgical treatment. The surgery is called bariatric surgery or weight loss surgery or metabolic surgery. It's a very effective treatment for combating obesity. It's a life transforming decision. It's not only about losing weight, it transforms your life. And it is not a cosmetic surgery. It is not designed to make you look slim. It is not designed to make you look better. That is just a side effect of the surgery. It is basically designed to make you lose weight so that you don't suffer from the diseases or the bad effects of obesity. It is not a quick fix, and it is not a guarantee of long-term weight loss. You still have to work hard. You still have to eat mindfully. You still have to exercise. But this helps the person by correcting the hormonal imbalance. It lowers the set point from a high bad weight to a low normal weight. And it makes it easier for the person to maintain the weight. So why do we do bariatric surgery? Because obviously most people are not able to lose weight with diets. It is not their fault. It is a scientific fact that their hormones are actually preventing them from losing weight. The set point that I talked about is not lowered by diet in most people. The second thing is, as someone becomes overweight and more overweight, the risk of developing other diseases seriously increases and dramatically increases. The third point is that surgery is the most effective and durable method of treatment of severe obesity. It is the only treatment available today all over the world which can lead to large amount of weight loss, which can lead to weight loss which is sustained for 15 to 20 years. It has also shown that even before the weight loss starts, the surgery normalizes the hormones and the other diseases start becoming normal. So it causes sustained and significant weight loss. Most patients lose weight rapidly, continue to do so for 1.5 to 2 years after the surgery. Type 2 diabetes is rapidly controlled. Most patients who are going to respond to this surgery, as far as type 2 diabetes is concerned, their effect comes in the first week only. That means after a surgery, most people can go off drugs. All medicines can be stopped and their sugars become normal. Blood pressure becomes normal. Heart disease risk becomes less and less as time passes with bariatric surgery. Cholesterol is lowered. Sleep apnea is cured in about 90% of people. In fact, this is the only definite treatment of sleep apnea which can cure the sleep apnea permanently. Joint pain is reduced, mobility becomes better, less heartburn is there, less acid reflux is there, mood and self-esteem is increased, energy is increased, performance in the society, social circles, and at work becomes better. And in the end, everything leads to a longer and healthier life. So not everybody who is overweight or obese qualifies for surgery. Not everybody needs to get surgery. So we restrict surgical options to the following patients. Patients who are between 18 and 65 years of age. Although this is not a fixed hard and fast limit, we do operate people who are below 18 years or more than 65 years, depending on the circumstances and the case on a case-to-case basis. BMI should be more than 37.5 kilograms per meter square or more than 32.5 with any of the diseases that I have mentioned. If these conditions are satisfied, then the person is a good candidate for bariatric surgery. They will get immense benefit from bariatric surgery. People who undergo bariatric surgery should not have a known endocrine or metabolic cause for severe obesity, which needs other treatments. Should be of sound mind because he has to understand the risk of operations and the commitment which is necessary. The commitment is lifelong, so they have to understand the commitment. They should be able to commit to regular follow-up visits for their doctor and a good diet and exercise program. People who have a history of drug abuse, people who have an eating disorder or a major psychiatric problem, any of these problems which are untreated or unresolved, they are not candidates for bariatric surgery. They don't do well and they have lots of problems after surgery. So we don't advise surgery to people who are suffering from either of these problems. Patients who are too ill or too weak to undergo surgery, any surgery, they of course, obviously, logically will not be a candidate for bariatric surgery. There are many methods of bridging therapies in which we can do some treatments so as to make them fit for surgery and then we can operate. But as they are not good candidates for bariatric surgery. Women who may become pregnant soon or who are planning pregnancy in the next 6 months to 1 year should not undergo bariatric surgery. After bariatric surgery, you should wait for at least 1 year before you start planning conception. Although I would like to say that a lot of women who have PCOD and infertility and problems in conceiving will actually benefit from this surgery. It has been shown that women who undergo bariatric surgery have a higher rate of pregnancy, higher rate of successful pregnancies and reduced complications during pregnancy. So there are many kinds of procedures, and previously they were classified into restrictive type, malabsorptive type, in which classification is not so relevant nowadays. The newer concept is that there are two kinds of procedures. One is sleeve-like and one is bypasses. And there are other procedures which don't fit into either of these categories. All operations have similar effects, but the magnitude of the effect varies and there are subtle differences between the procedures. So there are newer methods which have come up now in the past few years. Gastric balloon is one temporary method which is used for high-risk people and which makes them fit for undergoing a more definitive procedure. Gastric plication, endoscopic sleeve gastroplasty, PMR, barriers, gastric drainage. There are a number of procedures. This is the earliest procedure that was introduced called the lap band or adjustable gastric band. We don't do it now because the complications are very high and the results are not as good as the other procedures. Sleeve gastrectomy includes a procedure in which we remove a major part of the stomach. A large part of the stomach is removed and what remains is just this sleeve-like stomach. So in gastric bypass, we divide the stomach into two parts, one small pouch, and we attach the intestine directly to it so that the food flows from this pouch directly to the small intestine. Doesn't go into the rest of the stomach and the first part of small intestine. So the first part of stomach and the first part of small intestine, these are the places where the hormones are secreted, which cause a person to gain weight and which prevent weight loss. So when we stop exposure to food, to these parts, the hormonal disturbance automatically reverses, the set point is reset, and the person automatically starts to gain weight. This is another type of bypass which is called mini gastric bypass or one anastomosis gastric bypass. This is another procedure which is called ileal transposition. These are all various procedures which have various indications on a patient-to-patient basis. We decide as to which procedure is best for the patient. All these procedures are done laparoscopically by keyhole surgery or by the robotic surgery, which is an even more advanced form of laparoscopic surgery. And patients can go home after 2 or 3 days of the operation, and they can join work in about 5, 6, 7 days after surgery. What to expect after surgery is there is rapid weight loss in the first 3 to 6 months. The fastest weight loss occurs in the first 3 months. After that, the speed slows down, but they keep losing weight for up to 1.5 to 2 years. What happens to the hunger? What happens to the eating habits? Hunger is markedly reduced. The craving for carbs or carbohydrates is completely gone. So stomach is reduced to a small pouch. So you become full after a small meal, which is different from hunger. The hunger is reduced. That means your craving to eat is gone. Plus, when you eat a little bit, then you become full very soon. You'll become full very soon, and then you stay full for a long period of time. That means you still need only 3 meals in a day with maybe a couple of snacks. Once the surgery is done, then the role of the patient in contributing to the long-term success starts. To maximize your weight loss, you must follow these guidelines. 3 small meals in a day, and do not snack in between meals unless the snacks are healthy, in the sense they have less amount of carbohydrates, more proteins and more fiber. You must find out how much food or what portion of food makes you full, and you must take that portion every day in every meal so that you don't overeat. Because by the time your brain realizes that your stomach is full, you are already half an hour is passed. That means there is a lag between the stomach actually becoming full and the brain realizing that the stomach is full. That is the reason why it is easy to overeat when you don't stop after a fixed portion of meal. Because your diet is reduced, the amount of food that you eat is reduced, you will be able to get your macronutrients from this diet. But micronutrients or vitamins, minerals, iron, calcium and protein, you will not be able to get from the food. So you must take supplements, multivitamin, vitamin B12, iron, calcium and protein, and they are required lifelong. Even after bariatric surgery, you have to be careful about your diet. Your diet should be protein rich and less in carbohydrates. In some of the operations, if you take sweet foods or high sugar foods, they can lead to heart palpitations, abdominal pain, diarrhea, which is called the dumping syndrome. Another important thing that you have to realize is that you will not be able to drink a lot of water once you become dehydrated or thirsty. So therefore, you have to keep drinking or keep sipping a little bit of water throughout the day so that you don't become dehydrated. Alcohol intake should be minimized because the effect of alcohol is potentiated or increased after this surgery. You will get the same amount of effect of alcohol with less amount of alcohol. To summarize, bariatric surgery is the most effective therapy for morbid obesity. Morbid obesity is a disease which is caused by hormones. It is not the fault of the person. Therefore, it should be looked at as a disease, and it should be treated as a disease. You can try to lose weight at home by diet, exercise in a safe way. But if you're unsuccessful, you must seek medical help. You must seek help from people who are treating obesity and who are specialists in this branch. Diet and exercise can give you about 10% weight loss, or maybe maximum of up to 5, 6, 7, 10 kilos of weight loss. So people who need to lose that much weight, diet and exercise, medications, behavior modification are all very good methods, and they are very effective for weight loss. People who need to lose a lot of weight, they need to undergo bariatric surgery, the varieties of which I have discussed. What variety needs to be done and what uh, what surgery needs to be done, that can be discussed between the patient and the surgeon who is going to perform the surgery. It bariatric surgery will give you loss of excess body weights. It also gives you relief from the comorbidities. Comorbidities meaning the diseases that are caused by obesity, like diabetes, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, knee pain, PCOD, and various other diseases. The quality of life improves for all patients. There are so many small compromises that you make because of your weight, which you realize once you lose weight, then you realize that you were compromising in so many things. There are certain problems with the surgery also. There are nutritional deficiencies which can happen uh, if a person is not taking uh, the supplements as advised by his doctors. There are some GI complications which can also happen. I'm just going to show you some photographs of some of my patients who have agreed to share their results with the general public. This is one person who was 160 kilos, smoker, diabetic. This is the same person. After 1 year, his diabetes is gone, his sleep apnea is gone, and is completely healthy. This is another lady who was brought to our casualty or the emergency room with respiratory failure, had to be put on a ventilator because of her weight. I spoke to the relatives, spoke to the patient, and they agreed to undergo surgery. And we performed the surgery after preparation. This is her after 6 months. Her sleep apnea is gone, her respiratory problem is gone, her diabetes is gone, and she has become so active that her daughter said to me that I have never seen my mother go to the market and buy clothes and cosmetics for herself. You can see the difference even in these pictures. She was so happy with the results that her daughter, who was also obese, as you know, it is a genetic disease, who was also obese and also underwent a surgery, and she's also happy. This is another person, young boy, about 30, 32 years, who was obese and a diabetic. He also underwent a surgery. This is him after 1 year. His diabetes is completely controlled and he's completely happy. This is another boy who was 16 years old. As I told you that we operate on people who are less than 18 years also if the disease demands. So this boy had severe limitation of physical activity. He could not play, could not run, and his sugars had also started rising. He was going on to a borderline of diabetes. This is him after 1 year, and he has lost all of his excess weight and is completely active, completely healthy. Recently, I operated on a young girl, 25 years old, who was a severe diabetic for the past 2 years and was obese. Her diabetes was so bad that she needed about 450 units of insulin every day, which is about 10 to 15 times the normal requirement of most patients. She, she, she was operated about 1.5 months ago and we could stop all her medicines immediately after surgery. Her blood sugars are now in the range of 60 to 90 milligrams per deciliter. She has lost about 10 kilos of weight in the last 1.5 months, and she's so active, so happy. So what we need to remember about this whole lecture are a very few things. The first thing that you need to remember is that obesity is a hormonal disease. It is not the fault of the person who is obese, and it needs treatment like any other disease. Mild obesity is well managed by diet, exercise, and medications, but severe obesity and obesity which is leading to other diseases needs operations, needs surgery. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'll be very glad to answer them. Are there any questions? So there is a question from Shweta Sasidharan. Liposuction is a surgical procedure that uses suction technique to remove fat from specific areas. Is this procedure beneficial in the long-term run? Whether an overweight person can be candidate for this technique? What are its side effects and results? Very good question, Shweta. As I said, that bariatric surgery is completely different from liposuction. It is not a cosmetic surgery. Liposuction is a cosmetic operation. It is basically designed to for body sculpting or body shaping. It can remove fat from specific areas that you think need to be slimmed down. But it is not a good technique, or is not a technique at all for weight loss. So it should not be used for weight loss. It can be used for shaping of a specific part of your body, like your lower tummy or your arms or your thighs or your buttocks or your legs or your face. But it is not a technique for weight loss. It is absolutely not. For long-term weight loss, only bariatric surgery works. Liposuction is basically a technique for body shaping or body sculpting. There is another question from Suyog. Why pregnant ladies at risk for bariatric surgery? Good question, Suyog. See, what happens is, immediately after bariatric surgery, if the person is losing a lot of weight and there is a lot of churning going inside in the body. If somebody becomes pregnant at that time, the child in the uterus also needs nutrition. So it will not get enough nutrition because the body is trying to shed weight. Whereas pregnancy needs extra nutrition for the child also. Therefore, we advise people to not get pregnant at least 1 year after surgery. After 1 year, it has been shown that the pregnancy is completely safe and there are no problems. If there are any other questions, you can post them in the chat box. I'll try to answer all of them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening patiently to me. Thank you very much for allowing me to interact with you. It was a wonderful interaction. If there are any other queries that you need, you can contact. You can post the query on the Facebook page of Manipal Hospitals, and we'll get back to you. You can also contact us through our website or the phone numbers mentioned in our website. Thank you very much. Good evening. Good day.